joining us today to our virtual workshop. You probably joined us via Eventbrite, but now we're on Zoom, so thank you for being here today. If you have the handouts that were available on Eventbrite, go ahead and pull those up now. Otherwise, don't worry, we'll send them out afterwards. We'll send a follow-up email with everything that we talk about today. While we're waiting for folks to join us, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. Find that chat box, put in your name, tell us where you're joining us from, and make sure when you send any chats today that all of those chats go to all participants or all panelists and attendees. That'll make sure everybody can see what you're asking about and chatting about today. So there's a little drop-down menu, so make sure to choose that. Again, we're talking all about broccoli today. And you should have a couple handouts that have a growing guide and 3 recipes. And if you can't get to them right now, don't worry. We will email them out afterwards. And we'll refer to them a bunch today while we're chatting. All right. So again, welcome. My name is Becca. And we're talking about broccoli today for our Kitchen Garden Cooking School workshop. I'm a program manager here at Tarrant Area Food Bank. And joining me today is our dietetic intern, Sarah. And she will be telling us all the great reasons we should be including broccoli in our diet. So Sarah's gonna hop out for just a minute and she'll be back later to talk to us. Thanks, Sarah. All right, so we're talking all about broccoli today. I hope that's what you came here for because we're gonna talk about it a whole lot. First, we're gonna talk about how to grow it. We're gonna learn about the great nutrition it provides for our bodies. And then I'm gonna demonstrate 3 recipes for you today. So we are in a kitchen and it may get a little noisy, but if you have trouble hearing me, just say something and I will make sure to speak up a little bit. So first of all, to start this conversation today, why are we talking all about broccoli right now? And really the reason is because it's in season. You may have heard that term before, and what that means is that broccoli is growing and ready to harvest right now in the region that you live in. So for us, that's North Texas. If you're joining us from elsewhere, that may not be true for you, but we're in North Texas, Fort Worth, and broccoli is coming out of the garden right now. Farmers are harvesting it. I know I have some that's almost ready in my garden. And so when it's plentiful and it's available, that means that it will likely be cheaper at the grocery store. If it's traveling a shorter distance to get to your plate, whether that's from your garden, a farmer, or even the grocery store, it's going to have a higher nutritional content because it hasn't, we haven't lost any vitamins and minerals in travel from coming from who knows where else. And with not having to travel as far, that means that we're using fewer fossil fuels and gas to transport that produce from one place to another. So all around, great reasons to eat seasonal produce. And luckily, there are several choices throughout the year of what produce is in season and what may be a better price in the grocery store. So if you are growing broccoli in your garden, like I said, it may be ready to harvest. You may have planted it. Typically, a good time to plant broccoli is in August. Or if you miss that window, you can plant again in February, about February 1st to March 15th. You can plant it in a raised bed. You could plant it directly in the ground. Or if you have a container garden, go ahead and try growing broccoli in that container. However, it's probably going to do the best in a raised bed setting, but please feel free to grow it wherever you like. It's pretty adaptable. And wherever you choose to plant it, just make sure that it gets full sun, 6 to 8 hours a day, so it can grow to its full potential. When planting broccoli in the garden, you likely will want to plant it from a seedling or a transplant, same thing, different names. And that's just a small plant. And the reason for that is it gives it a little bit of a head start on the season. It's a little more mature and can adapt to whatever weather comes its way. You can try planting directly from a seed into your garden. You may just not get the best results that way, but give it a try if you'd like. Some fun facts about broccoli. Typically, when you grow broccoli, it will produce 1 head. So something like this. And you'll cut it right off the stalk and be able to enjoy it right away. And likely, that plant won't produce another head for you. It may produce a few little florets around the stem where you cut it, but you really only get 1 harvest from it. So it kind of, it's one and done. But you can also eat the leaves. Those are edible, great in stir fries or cooked down like you would spinach or collard greens. And so it's kind of a fun plant. And we'll talk more about these other in. But there's lots of different varieties if you're growing your own broccoli at home to choose from, whether it's from a seed catalog or even at the nursery. All right, so I'll be back with you in a minute. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah so she can tell us all the great vitamins and minerals that we can get from eating broccoli every day.
Okay, thank you so much, Becca. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started with the nutrition portion lesson, I just want to remind everyone about my plate. So you might have this as a reference in your handouts. If not, I do have this handy, so make sure there's not a glare for you. I do have this handy representation of what my plate is. It's us as we decide what portions for the food groups to include on our plate daily and weekly. And as you can see, make sure I turn this right for you. The fruits and vegetables together make up about half of our plate. And we all know it's important to get fruits and vegetables in daily and weekly, but you also want to focus on a variety in your diet. And this is due to fruits and vegetables offering a variety of vitamins and minerals. And so the easiest way to focus on getting a variety is to incorporate lots of different colors. I'm sure when you've walked through the grocery store, you see the reds, purples, orange, yellows, and green, like our broccoli here today. And so taking the time to try and incorporate as many colors as possible will let you get that full spectrum of nutrition for your body. But today we're just covering broccoli. And so with vegetables, in general, my plate says a serving. One serving is 1 cup raw or half a cup cooked. And with broccoli, a serving is a medium stalk, kind of about what you see here. If you like to be exact and weigh your food, you love the science of it, it's about 148 grams, which is also about 5 ounces. And so you might be thinking, okay, vegetables are good for me. I know I have to eat them, but what is it really bringing to me? What's the point? So vegetables are nutrient dense and lower calories. So they give you some energy, but they're giving you the best bang for your buck. So with broccoli, for example, it's low calorie. It only has 45 calories, but it's packed with nutrients. So it has 3 grams of fiber, which in the US, to be considered a good source of fiber, it needs to be about 10% of your daily value, which is about 2.5 grams. So broccoli is already a little bit ahead of that. About 8 grams of carbohydrates, which are important in your diet, but there's also not too much compared to the other nutrients in it. It has 4 grams of protein, less than a gram of fat, and only 2 grams of sugar. So all in all, when you look at all the ingredients compared to each other, or nutrients rather, it's a really nice balance of energy and nutrient dense. And even more in depth, vitamin K, 116% of your vitamin K is in a daily serving of broccoli. And vitamin K is important for a lot of reasons in your body, but it's important for blood clotting. So it prevents excessive bleeding. Vitamin C, it has 150% of your vitamin C. And we all know how important and wonderful vitamin C is, but just for a refresher, helps boost your immune system, lower your risk of developing chronic diseases. It helps manage high blood pressure and can prevent iron deficiency. And just a little bit fun information for you on broccoli. It's in the cruciferous vegetable family. So you're also going to find Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, and mustard greens in this family. And what's wonderful about them is research has shown that all the nutrients within them can help the suppression of a lot of cancer. So cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancer, and even colon cancer. So it's really wonderful to include in your diet. And just to circle back around, I had mentioned before the 3 grams of fiber. Fiber is really wonderful, keeps you full, keeps things moving, but also soluble and insoluble fiber are 2 different types that you're going to find. Soluble is fermentable and dissolvable in water, where the insoluble, it just helps kind of keep things moving. Broccoli has both, so you're getting all the benefits. I really hope that you are excited to see the recipes today. I know Becca has great recipes, and they're really going to kind of hit home for everyone and help you include broccoli in your diet. So I'm going to turn you over to Becca.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah. It's always a great reminder to know what kinds of vitamins and minerals our food provides for us and helps our body function well. So before we jump into the recipes, I'd like to talk about these lovely broccolis that I have in front of me and how to shop for them at the grocery store. So if you are not growing enough broccoli in your garden to sustain your whole menu, you may need to supplement from the grocery store. So typically there's about 3 different kinds that you will find. The most common is our traditional crown of broccoli. This is likely what you will find most often in the grocery store. Every once in a while you get lucky enough to find the others, but typically a recipe is going to call for this type of broccoli. It's good for everything. You can eat it raw, you can saute it, roast it, steam it, boil it, all great different techniques that you can use to cook this broccoli. Another type of broccoli that you may find is called broccoli Rabe or Rabe. It goes by either name. And actually this one was called Broccolini when I was at the grocery store today. So you can see that it has little florets in it like a regular broccoli, but it also has all this foliage. And so this is really great. It's a little bit spicier. You'll see it in a lot of Asian dishes. It kind of tastes a little bit like a turnip. It's pretty closely related to both the turnip and broccoli. So you get the lovely florets and then you get to saute the greens as well. So it's really great in stir fries. I wouldn't recommend eating it raw. It's a little bit bitter, but it is a great variation if you love kind of that bitter, a little bit spicy flavor. So give that one a try if you can get your hands on it. And another option is broccolini. So you can see it looks very similar to broccoli. It has a little bit more open buds, so it's not quite as tight as a regular head of broccoli, and it's got these beautiful long stems. So you can eat this whole thing. You can eat the little leaves, you can eat the florets and the stems. And this you could use very similarly to your traditional broccoli. It's going to be a little bit sweeter, so if you don't like regular broccoli, you might give broccolini a try. So like I said, I was lucky enough to find all 3 today in one grocery store trip. Or you could try growing these varieties as well. That might be a fun option if you're growing broccoli in your garden. All right, so we've got those 3 options. Whenever you're shopping for broccoli, choose florets that are firm. If it's traditional broccoli, tight heads are good. You don't want soggy or soft stems at all. And if you're choosing the varieties that have leaves, make sure they're not wilted, yellowing, or brown. If there's 1 or 2, you can pull those out, but make sure the majority of the leaves look great. All right, so we'll get this out of the way. And we're gonna jump into our recipes. So I have 3 great recipes for you today. And really the idea is, we've probably all had broccoli. It's a pretty common vegetable. Maybe you're not a big fan, but I'd like to offer a few different ways to try it that might be different than what you've had it before, because we want to be able to enjoy our food and be able to get that good nutrition in our bodies in an enjoyable way. So the 3 recipes I have for you today are in your handout packet. And again, if you didn't get that yet, I will email that out afterwards. And we're going to start with a roasted broccoli dish. So roasted broccoli is a great way to enjoy broccoli. If you haven't had it, give it a try. You may find that you like it more than any other kind of broccoli you had. Roasting vegetables is usually a good option. So I'm going to show you how I'll cut this up. And again, you can eat the stem of the broccoli. If it's tender, you might cut just the base off and use some of these tender stems. And that'll add a lot more volume to your meal as well. So if you're feeding a lot of people or you just want to stretch your produce a little bit farther, go ahead and eat that tender stem. And if it's got some rough skin on the outside, take a vegetable peeler to it and just peel off a couple layers and eat the rest. For a while, one of my cousins only liked the stems of broccoli. So it's edible and it's good. People like it. I'm not just making it up. So for our roasted broccoli, we're going to go with some pretty good sized florets here. You don't want them too small because they'll burn up in the oven. But you're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And then you're going to start cutting your broccoli. So I've already prepared some of it today. Sarah helped me prep all the recipes today, and they look wonderful. So we're going to get these ready to go for you. So we'll take our broccoli, and you could cut up broccoli several different ways. Typically, the fastest way is to find where most of the stems meet and cut right above that. That way, it's pretty much going to fall apart, and you're going to have your florets ready. So there's a good spot here that I'll cut with, and you can use a regular chef's knife. And it's got a nice flat side already for me, so So if you have a full head, maybe cut it in half first, and that'll give you a good flat side. All right, so we're gonna find our spot where all of the stalks meet and just give it a good chop. This is probably what I'll discard. It looks a little bit more dense, maybe a little bit rough, so I'll get rid of that and we won't include that in our meal today. So look, we've got several pieces that have fallen away already, and the rest of it you can just do some vertical cuts, or you could cut again where the next set of stalks meet. And again, we can use the stems and the tops. If you don't want long pieces like this, just go ahead and give it another chop, and you can include the stalk with the rest of your florets. Again, you might have somebody that likes the stalks better. They don't have that texture at the top. That might be what it is, a texture issue. So you want most of your florets to be about the same size. That way they'll cook evenly, but you know, inevitably you're gonna get one that's smaller than another. You can always cut some in half if they're a little bit too tall or too wide. And I'm gonna remove the leaves on this particular recipe, just because they would cook a lot faster than the, but if you were sauteing, you could certainly leave any little leaves in that you wanted to. All right, we've got our stems and our florets. A bowl all together with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. And we're going to then roast it for about 20 or 30 minutes. Might keep an eye on it just in case it goes a little faster than that. All right. So we've got a little bit of oil. I'm going to toss that a little bit first so that our seasonings stick to it. And we're just going to put salt and pepper on here. If you wanted to get creative with some other spices, feel free to do so. Maybe some garlic powder, onion powder. If you like it a little bit spicy, maybe some red pepper flakes. Really kind of a blank canvas here. We're just going for simple today though, because we've got a nice dressing to go with this. But really, you can serve this roasted broccoli by itself. I'm trying to remember which one of these I'm supposed to use. It'll work out. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna toss it again so that our salt and pepper is evenly distributed throughout the dish here. And then we're gonna put it on our foil-lined baking sheet. Okay, and you want an even layer, one single layer. You don't want it all piled up on top of each other. Sorry, little slippery. So we've got our broccoli in one layer here, and then we'll pop it in the oven. All right, 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, and while we're waiting for that, we're going to prepare our other dishes. But first, we're going to make the dressing for the roasted broccoli. We have plain non-fat Greek yogurt here. It's going to give us a nice tangy dressing without a lot of fat, and you get some added protein and probiotics. So that's a really great option. And then we've got some vinegar and oil. We have some shallots and garlic already minced very finely. If you wanted it to be more of a smooth dressing, you could put it in a blender, but I thought that it would be a little bit too many dishes for me today. So I'm going to avoid the blender. The recipe calls for a quarter cup of dried basil to give you a really strong basil flavor. If you want to reduce that, please feel free to. We're going to go ahead and give it a try today and see how that goes. I think it'll be a really nice combination with our roasted broccoli. And then we're going to add in some salt and pepper. And we're going to give it a good whisk. There's my whisk. And if you need to, you can add some water into this to thin it out a little bit. It should be a little runny so that you can drizzle it over your roasted broccoli when it comes out of the oven. And you'll serve this warm. So we'll come back to this when our broccoli is done in the oven. We'll set this aside. All right, fantastic. The next recipe that we're going to work on is our broccoli and creamy rice. So again, another delicious dish that's pretty easy to assemble. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna need to chop up our broccoli and let it steam for a little bit. So I'm gonna get that going so it's nice and soft, and we'll hop on over to our salad recipe while we wait for it to steam. For this recipe, I'm gonna cut into a little bit smaller pieces so that when we mix it in with the rice, it's evenly distributed and you can kind of get a little bit of broccoli with every bite of rice. So we want to go with a few smaller pieces. And again, you can include the stems and the florets in this part. The stems will be nice and soft when they're steamed, and they will go great with the rice. So we've rinsed our broccoli. Again, we've got another piece we can include here, and I'm going to look for that line where all of the stalks meet. Give it a good chop. We don't need that piece. And since we're going with smaller pieces this time, it may take a little bit longer to chop this up, but we've already got these nice florets that it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. But again, we want them all to be about the same size so they cook evenly, and when you're getting a bite, you can have a little bit of everything. All right, so nice small pieces, all about the same size. You can cut the stalks in half or in quarters, nice long pieces. And eventually, once you're chopping, it'll just kind of fall apart. It doesn't have to be perfect. It'll get cooked and all blended together here in a little bit anyways. All right. And the way that we're going to steam this is we're just going to put it in a saucepan here with a little bit of water in the bottom. Not enough to cover the broccoli so it doesn't get too mushy, but just about an inch of water in the bottom is fine, and that'll steam nicely. If you have a steam basket or another appliance that you prefer to use for steaming, maybe you've got something that can go in the microwave, that's perfectly fine as well. Whatever your preferred method of steaming will work perfectly for this recipe. And it doesn't need to steam for very long, just enough to soften everything. And if y'all have any questions during our class today, please feel free to chat those in the chat box. Happy to answer any questions about these recipes, or we can always bring Sarah back over here to answer any nutrition questions as well. All right, so we're going to get this into our pot here with the rest of our broccoli. And again, it should be very quick. So we'll cover it back up and let that sit while we work on our salad. Okay, so this salad is called the favorite broccoli salad. I don't know whose favorite it is, but it's very good. The ingredients that we need for this salad, broccoli, of course, and then we're going to use sunflower seeds, red onion, and dried cranberries. So a little bit of everything, some fruit, vegetables, nuts, with a nice Dijon mustard dressing. So it's going to give us a nice tangy dressing that'll coat everything well and help blend all of those flavors together. So this is a great way to eat broccoli raw. If you're raw broccoli, maybe don't start with this one. But with all the other ingredients, it can kind of mask that bitter flavor. So for this recipe, you'll probably want to choose more tender broccoli. You can even try the broccolini if you wanted to give that a go. But again, we're going to go with small florets so that when we eat our salad, we can get a bite of everything in each spoonful. So here we've got a whole head of broccoli. We're going to cut this one in half first. We have a nice flat side. So find one side that's not too wobbly and just cut right through it. It should be soft enough that you can push through it fairly easily. And then we've got our flat side, so we're not rolling around or worrying about our fingers as much. And again, we're going to look for that spot where all of the stems merge, and then we can start working on our florets. So again, you can use the stems if you like. If you're a little, you might not try them first in a raw your choice. We'll go ahead and get this all chopped up here and added to the rest of our salad ingredients. It'll be pretty fast after we get everything together. And I really like that the salad doesn't call for much preparation. We had to chop the onion and the broccoli, and that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've got plenty of broccoli in there already, so I don't think I'm going to include too many stems. But if you wanted this recipe to go a little farther, you could certainly include the stems. However, if you've got a nice compost pile, these broccoli stalks will be perfect for that compost pile. So we ate most of our stems today, the rest are going in the compost pile. So right now I'm just kind of cutting each floret off right below the buds at the top. Getting rid of a little more stalk just to move us along here. And then we'll go back through and kind of trim it down a little bit. Get rid of the big ones. Kind of in half and in half again. Watch your fingers as you're cutting. That looks really good. We're going to add that into the rest of our ingredients here and give them a good mix. Broccoli is a little messy when you're chopping things up. You get pieces of broccoli everywhere. That's all right. So we're going to mix it first, and then we'll make our dressing. Make sure that nothing gets stuck together without any dressing on it. And you can make this ahead a little bit at a time, and that way it'll soften the broccoli a little bit as well, marinate. Okay, so we're mixed up pretty well there, and then we're going to make our dressing. Our dressing is olive oil, apple cider vinegar, mustard, a little bit of garlic, and a little bit of salt as well. And honey, I think. If I'm forgetting anything, let me know. So I'm going to add this into the oil. Then I'm going to use a fork today because I've got kind of a tall glass here. Fork works just as well as a whisk for dressings most of the time. So if you don't have a whisk, no worries. You can even put this in a jar and shake it up. Make sure our mustard gets mixed around here. It's a nice honey mustard dressing. And we're just going to add this to our salad. Plenty of dressing here. You can always dress it a little bit at a time, and if you have leftover, that would be great for another meal. All right, so we'll give it a good mix, and then get it in a bowl that'll be ready to serve when everyone's ready to eat it. Now we've got some folks who are excited to try some broccoli recipes today, and I hope that you will try these as well. A little bit different than our traditional cheese and broccoli casseroles, and provide some nice combinations of flavors here. Okay, once you've got it combined, I'm going to put it in a nice bowl so I can serve it here in just a minute, and so y'all can see it a little bit better. Looks great. I'm going to take a picture of that later. All right. So check that out. That is ready to eat. I bet you that our broccoli is about done steaming here. Get a few things out of the way while we're waiting. And then all we have left to do is mix our rice ingredients together. Okay, so we've got our rice already made. I'm going to go ahead and add this to a bowl with the cream cheese so it can start softening. And I chose a low-fat cream cheese today, just to reduce some of that fat, but still get our nice creamy texture and flavor. And then the only other ingredients we need are sun-dried tomatoes and Parmesan cheese. So I'll go ahead and put the cream cheese in here along with the Parmesan cheese and let that start melting a little bit with our nice warm rice. And really we want to combine this all together, mix until it's smooth, probably before we add our broccoli, just so nothing gets stuck in the cheese before it's all mixed. Take a little bit of mixing here. We'll get our Parmesan cheese in there as well. And I did use brown rice today. So if you're wanting to add some more whole grains into your diet, brown rice is a great option. It would be great in this recipe too if you're not quite used to it, because it's mixed in with all these other fabulous flavors. Brown rice will give you more of that fiber Sarah was talking about, as well as more vitamins and minerals. It'll and provide you with some more protein as well. So it's really a great option. Not only does it taste great, it is good for you as well. And it'll taste great broccoli and tomatoes as well. Okay, so we've got it mixed pretty well here together. A little bit pasty at the moment. That's what we're looking for, nice and creamy. Mix a little bit more broth in or some more water to kind of make it stick together a little bit less. All right, we'll add in our sun-dried. So we just added, we drained the oil on a paper towel. You can use a sieve or a colander first if you'd like. And we're going to mix them in. You could chop them up a little bit more if you'd like, but they're pretty good sized pieces coming out of the jar, so we don't necessarily need to do that, depending on what brand of sun-dried tomatoes you purchase. Okay. And then we'll get our broccoli out. It's steamed nicely, a nice beautiful color. Use a slotted spoon or you can drain it first. You don't want too much of that water in there. There's probably some other vegetables you could add to this dish if you'd like. You could add some sauteed onion, maybe some other green vegetables. Really make a great dish out of this. If you'd like to add a protein, you could add some shredded chicken. That would be good. Okay. I'm going to keep mixing here until our broccoli is incorporated into our dish. And then it'll be ready to serve. It smells wonderful, and I'm making a giant mess. All right, so we'll kind of dish a little bit of everything up here. Let me grab our roasted broccoli, see how that's doing. It is just about perfect. Look at how beautiful it is. It's got a nice golden brown color on the edges. We'll add that to our plate with a little bit of dressing. And this will be a great broccoli-filled meal for us today. Have a little bit of roasted broccoli. A little bit of our salad. And a little bit of our creamy rice with our broccoli. broccoli and sun-dried tomatoes. All right, a little bit of everything. I hope y'all enjoyed our class today and that you'll try some more broccoli dishes, one of these or maybe one of your own. Please feel free to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so you can hear about other events. Visit our website if you're needing food resources, and check Eventbrite for more virtual workshops and hopefully some in-person workshops someday in the future. And if you're interested, we have volunteer opportunities at our garden and at our mobile markets. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I will see you next time.